Have you ever felt like you're being watched, even when no one is there? Or had familiar objects vanish only to reappear in strange places? As if they had a will of their own. You might dismiss it as a tired mind or just random coincidence. But what if it wasn't a coincidence at all? This is the story of Sophia, a young woman, a new mother, whose peaceful life suddenly veered in an entirely different direction. It all began with a seemingly harmless decision to enroll in a class on paranormal phenomena. And from one quiet summer night, when she and her infant son stepped into a place rumored to hold unspoken secrets, something awakened. Join me as we step into this tale, where the line between reality and the mystical becomes thinner than ever. Perhaps after listening, you'll never look at your own home the same way again. The humid July heat of last summer still clung to the small town of Northwood. Home to the prestigious Northwood University, Sophia, a woman in her early 20s with golden hair and deep blue eyes that perpetually held the tired gaze of a new mother, was facing a novel challenge, a paranormal phenomena class at the famously haunted university. Her infant son, Leo, only a few months old, usually lay quietly in his stroller beside her, occasionally bringing a chubby fist to his mouth. Beside them was Jake, Sophia's nephew and Leo's second cousin, a lanky young man in his late teens or early 20s with messy dark hair. Jake, a freshman, was staying at Sophia's apartment for the summer and often helped her look after Leo. Sophia's apartment was directly across from the university gates, a convenient location for commutes, but one that also created a sense of being surrounded by the old world charm, and at times, eerie stillness of the ancient stone buildings. She loved history and mysterious tales. So when the paranormal phenomena class was offered, she didn't hesitate to enroll. The most exciting, or terrifying, depending on one's perspective, part of the course involved real-life ghost hunts. Professor Montgomery, a seasoned researcher with a long white beard and sharp eyes behind thick glasses, always emphasized that Northwood University was an ideal spot for such an endeavor. Stories of wandering spirits and tragedies from centuries past, haunting the old hallways and classrooms, had become familiar legends among the students here. One midweek evening, as the clock neared midnight, a thin mist began to shroud the ancient trees on campus. Sophia, bundled in a thick coat and tightly wrapped scarf, pushed Leo's stroller along the familiar cobblestone path. Jake walked closely behind her, clutching a professional camera borrowed from the library, his face a mix of excitement and unease. The faint creaking of the stroller wheels echoed steadily in the silent night, creating an odd, disquieting rhythm. Aunt Sophia, are we really doing this in the middle of the night? Jake asked softly, his voice trembling slightly. Professor Montgomery said the energy is stronger at night, but it's so cold. Sophia turned to him, offering a reassuring smile. It's all right, Jake. My mom knows I'm here. Plus, she works here. I know most of the staff. Someone's bound to let us in. Fortunately, Sophia was right. A few minutes later, an elderly security guard named Mr. Henderson, with a head of white hair and a kind smile, opened the door to the administration building. Mr. Henderson, an old acquaintance of Sophia's mother, nodded to them and agreed to give them a tour through a few ancient buildings, rumored to be hotbeds of paranormal activity. The old dormitory building is the liveliest one. Ms. Sophia, Mr. Henderson whispered, his voice hushed as if afraid of disturbing something. Many students have reported hearing footsteps, whispers, and even seeing figures glide past the windows at night. As they stepped into the old dormitory, a sudden wave of icy cold air washed over them, making Sophia shiver. Despite her preparation, she couldn't shake off a spine-chilling sensation. The long, dark hallway, dimly lit by old light bulbs, cast long, winding shadows on the walls. The smell of dampness and old dust filled their nostrils, making the air feel heavy. A small sound echoed from the end of the hallway, like two metal objects clinking together. Sophia and Jake simultaneously turned, their eyes wide. Mr. Henderson also froze, squinting into the darkness. "It's just the wind, I'm sure," he murmured, but his voice sounded strained. Sophia tried to stay calm, glancing at Leo. Normally, Leo was an exceptionally well-behaved baby, rarely crying. But as they ventured deeper into the building, something strange began to happen. Leo, who had been lying quietly in his stroller, suddenly started to squirm. From small whimpers, he quickly escalated into shrill cries, then a full-blown tantrum. Leo shrieked, kicking his arms and legs wildly, his face flushed and tears streaming down his cheeks. He tensed up as if something was terrifying him, and Sophia could feel an icy cold current surrounding her son. "Leo, what's wrong, baby?" Sophia cried, trying to soothe him. She picked Leo up, holding him tightly, but his crying didn't subside. He continued to struggle and wail, as if seeing something horrific that only he could perceive. Leo's fear seemed contagious, making the surrounding atmosphere even more tense. "Aunt Sophia, we should go outside." Jake stammered, his face pale. He had never seen Leo cry so intensely. "Mr. Henderson nodded frantically, his face clearly showing worry. "Yes, we should go outside. Perhaps this place isn't suitable for children." They hurried out of the old dormitory building. As soon as they stepped outside, breathing in the fresh night air, Leo suddenly fell silent. He still sobbed a few times, but his violent crying had completely vanished. Sophia held her son tightly, feeling immense relief but also a shiver. She had taken a few photos inside the building, but upon reviewing them, she only saw some blurry orbs, small specks of light that Professor Montgomery explained could be energy, but also possibly just dust reflecting the flash. Nevertheless, the experience with Leo had made Sophia unable to dismiss the thought that something was truly amiss. In the following weeks, life in Sophia's apartment began to turn strangely alarming. Initially, they were just minor incidents, easy to dismiss. Leo's toys, like his teddy bear Charlie or the red toy car, would frequently vanish from familiar spots only to reappear in inexplicable locations. One afternoon, Sophia and Jake were sitting in the living room, discussing how they couldn't find Leo's toy car. It had been missing since morning. "I'm sure I left it on this sofa," Jake said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "I was playing with Leo right here." Sophia nodded in agreement. "I remember seeing it here too. That's odd." As soon as her words faded, a small thud echoed from the corner of the room, near an old bookshelf. Both of them jumped, turning to look. The red toy car lay haphazardly on the floor, right in front of the bookshelf, as if it had just been thrown. Sophia and Jake exchanged glances, their eyes filled with disbelief. They had looked in that corner many times, and the toy car definitely wasn't there. "See," Jake whispered, his voice caught in his throat. "There's no way we could have missed it." It wasn't just Leo's toys, even Sophia's and Jake's personal belongings would occasionally relocate themselves. A key left on the dining table might appear in the bathroom. A half-read book might be found in the closet. Both tried to find rational explanations, but none seemed to fit. Then, the strange phenomena began to become more pronounced and terrifying. The TV volume would sometimes spontaneously blast to maximum, startling them. Once, Sophia was watching the news when the TV volume suddenly boomed, the piercing sound making her jump. She frantically reached for the remote to lower the volume, but it kept increasing, as if someone was holding down the volume up button. It took her several struggling seconds to finally gain control of it. Jake also experienced similar things. He was playing a video game when the game's sound abruptly became deafening, forcing him to pull off his headphones. Both began to feel an eerie sensation, as if they were being watched. This feeling often occurred in the evening, when the apartment plunged into darkness and even the smallest sounds became distinct. A sudden cold draft might sweep through the living room, even with the windows tightly shut. A faint shuffling sound might emanate from the stairs. Even though they were the only ones home, Sophia, despite her efforts to remain calm, couldn't help but feel a growing sense of dread creeping into her heart. She was a practical person, but these occurrences defied all logic. She started to lose sleep, waking up with a jolt every night from strange noises. Her face grew paler by the day, her eyes shadowed with dark circles. She constantly found herself scanning the corners of rooms, as if expecting to see something. Fear slowly consumed her. One fateful morning, Sophia's anxiety escalated into genuine terror. She was in a deep sleep when Jake's voice from downstairs echoed, urgent and tinged with panic. "Aunt Sophia, wake up. Come down and unlock the deadbolt for me." Sophia woke with a start. She groggily checked the clock, 6 a.m. Normally, Jake would never wake her up this early. She quickly got out of bed, threw on a light jacket, and hurried downstairs. When she reached the bottom, she saw Jake standing in front of the main door, his face ashen. His eyes were wide, fixated on the metal deadbolt. It's locked," Jake whispered, his voice still trembling. Sophia looked at the deadbolt. Indeed, it was locked. This deadbolt was designed to be locked and unlocked only from inside the house. Ever since they moved in, both Sophia and Jake had agreed never to lock it, as they lived in a safe area and didn't want to be locked in. "Are you sure, Jake?" Sophia asked, trying to keep her voice steady. She felt a chill begin to spread through her body. "I don't remember ever locking it." Jake shook his head frantically. "I swear I didn't. Aunt Sophia, I tried to open it. It's jammed shut." They stood there, staring at the deadbolt, both sharing the same terrifying thought. Who locked it? There was no one else in the house but them. Sophia felt a shiver run down her spine. Still, in her tired and disoriented state, Sophia tried to dismiss the unsettling thought. "I must have been too tired and accidentally locked it without thinking," she told herself, even though she knew how illogical that sounded. She turned the deadbolt, a dry click echoing, unlocking the door for Jake. However, that incident was just the beginning of a far more terrifying nightmare. A few days later, Sophia took Leo to the university for a walk-in lunch with her mother. That afternoon, upon returning to the apartment, a gloomy atmosphere hung heavy in the air. The old trees outside seemed to droop more heavily. In dark, ominous clouds signaled an approaching rainstorm. Sophia inserted her key into the lock, turning it with a dry click. She pushed the door, but it wouldn't open. She tried again, pushing harder. Still nothing. A chilling sensation ran down Sophia's spine. She looked down at the deadbolt. It was locked. An extreme sense of dread suddenly consumed her. Jake was away, visiting a sick relative in another city. No one was home. So, who had locked the deadbolt from the inside? The first thought that flashed through Sophia's mind was an intruder. She trembled, her hands frantically searching for her phone in her purse. Her heart pounded in her chest, as if it wanted to leap out. She felt a wave of nausea rise in her throat. Her face was ashen, her eyes wide with panic. Leo, sitting quietly in his stroller, seemed to sense his mother's tension. He began to squirm, then let out faint whimpers. Sophia called her mother, her voice trembling so much it was hard to understand. "Mom, I can't get into the house. The deadbolt's locked from the inside. Jake's not home." Her mother, a calm woman, tried to reassure her. "Calm down, Sophia. It must be some kind of mistake. Just sit outside and wait. I'll call your son's father to check the house for you before we call the police." Sophia sank down onto the doorstep, holding Leo tightly. She tried to calm herself, but every time she looked at the firmly shut door, she felt an icy coldness emanating from within. She imagined the most horrific scenarios, an intruder lurking inside her own home, waiting. This fear wasn't like ordinary worries. It was a primal dread, chilling her to the bone. Time passed agonizingly slowly. Every small sound from inside the house made Sophia jump. She heard the floorboards creak, as if someone was walking. A small thud echoed from upstairs, as if something had fallen. She quickly covered Leo's mouth, afraid that his cries would attract attention. She looked around, ready to flee if anyone suddenly emerged from the door. 15 minutes passed, then 20. Sophia felt like she had been sitting there for an eternity. Finally, a familiar blue truck pulled up to the curb. It was Michael, Leo's father. Michael stepped out of the truck, his face etched with worry. What's going on? Sophia, are you and Leo all right? Sophia just pointed to the door. It's locked from the inside. Michael, I've tried everything. Michael nodded, approaching the door. He tried twisting the doorknob, pushing hard. Nothing happened. He bent down to look at the deadbolt, then pushed the door hard again. Just then, a chilling sound echoed. The distinct sound of the deadbolt sliding, followed by a decisive click as the lock disengaged. The door suddenly swung open a crack. Michael and Sophia simultaneously looked at each other, their eyes wide with astonishment and terror. Michael quickly pushed the door wide open. Inside, the apartment was empty. No one. No signs of a break-in. Everything was in its original place. The air in the apartment was thick with an indescribable coldness. Even though Michael checked every room, every corner, he found no trace of an intruder. The emptiness of the house only magnified Sophia's fear. There was no explanation for what had just happened. Who had locked that door? And how did it just unlock itself the moment Michael pushed it? Sophia held Leo tightly, feeling a cold shiver run down her spine. Not from the outdoor chill, but from something invisible, present right within her own home. From that day on, Sophia knew that the strange occurrences had only just begun. The ghost stories she once thought were just theories in her class had become a haunting reality. And it was right there in her apartment, whispering, chilling secrets in the darkness. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Tina Shadow Stories so you don't miss our next chilling tales. See you in the next video.